Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Glad you could be here today. I want to talk a little about what I look for in books that I want to read. And I have it broken down into two categories. The first one is my first impressions of a book, what initially causes me to borrow or purchase the book. And the other one would be what keeps me reading a book, what keeps me engaged, or makes me decide to finally pick up a book that's been on my TBR for a while that I own, but I haven't quite got to yet. So I'll talk about those two different aspects of it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well. I would love to hear what it is that gives you your first impression of a book, and also what keeps you interested, keeps you reading. And we can kind of compare notes. So please hit me up in the comments as soon as you've finished the video so that we can discuss that. And do make sure to stay till the end of the video so that you hear all my thoughts on this and you don't miss out on any other things that we could discuss. So let's get right to it. The very first thing that is a first impression for me is the book cover. And sometimes I have picked up a book solely on the cover alone. It's rare, but it has happened. There have been times that I've been like, you know what, that cover is so amazing. I don't care what the back of the book says about it or anything else. I need to own that book because not only is the cover cool, it's going to look cool on my shelf. And I haven't done that very often, but there have been times. And on the flip side of that, there are times that a book cover just completely deters me from picking up a book. I'll be like, you know what, that cover looks horrible. I don't care anything about what else I find out or hear or read about the book. I'm just not even going to bother because that cover is horrible. Now, there have been some exceptions. One in particular, I remember I bought a book, an ebook, a few years back for 99 cents. You know, not really expensive or anything like that. And the cover was horrible. To my knowledge, I don't think the author has changed the book cover at all. It's still horrible, but the blurb, and I'll get to that here in a minute, the story sounded so interesting from what I read in the description of it that I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I was really on the fence about it, and I read some of the reviews, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. And it ended up being a really fun book. So you hear the saying, don't judge a book by its cover. I get that, and it makes sense to me based on that one purchase that I made. But usually, based on reviews I see and different things like that, if a book cover is bad, there's probably a good chance that I'm not going to enjoy the book itself. But I try to keep an open mind with that. Now, the next thing would be the blurb, or the description, the summary on the back of the book. If the cover looks cool, or cool enough that I want to know more about it, I'll pick the book up, I'll read the back of it, see what's happening with it. If the synopsis sounds pretty intriguing, and I'm pretty picky too, if it sounds intriguing, I will usually go ahead and at the very least borrow it from the library, or maybe even buy it for myself if the description sounds really good. And another thing that I go off of is recommendations. It could be from friends or family. It could be people that I follow on social media that I see recommendations from. I picked up some great books as a result of that. I've also gotten some really good recommendations from bookstore employees. One in particular that I remember happened just last year. I picked up a book based on a recommendation from a Barnes & Noble employee. That book was Meddling Kids. I have done a review on it, so if you want to see more about that, I'll link the video at the end of this. But that book ended up being so amazing. It was one of my favorite reads of 2019. And I'm so glad that I got that recommendation from the bookstore employee. She obviously loves books. She obviously loves unique books. And she had overheard me talking about how I love Cthulhu. So she recommended this book to me, and it was amazing. She just recommended another book to me not too long ago that I have on my soon-to-be-read list as well. So I'll talk about that maybe in a future video, but I do go off of recommendations. That's a big deal to me. And the final thing that is a good first impression for me for a book is if I'm looking at the second book in the series, and I know I really enjoyed the first book in the series, that will usually cause me to pick it up because I want to continue reading more. So that's it as far as my first impressions go. Now let's talk about what keeps me reading a book. The first one is characters. I really love a good character. I love characters that are unique, they're weird, they're strange, because in my opinion, normal is highly overrated. Just saying. I don't claim to be normal. Most people who know me would tell you I'm not normal. Thank God. And I love characters that are not normal. They're different. They're unique. They stand out from the rest of the crowd. I look for that. I like immersive characters. Characters that have a really deep and enriching backstory. And a backstory that continues to surprise me. I don't like to know everything about a character right up front. And some of the best books that I've read, especially if it's in a series, they keep me guessing at things about the characters. And I really like that. I don't like cookie cutter characters. Characters that are always good or always bad, just so good or so bad that it's not believable. I like complex, morally gray, very, very dark characters. Characters that make you hate to love them and love to hate them. Those kind of characters. That's one reason I'm kind of drawn to grimdark fantasy fiction. I really like to see the darker sides of the human psyche and the human soul, and see people at their very worst and even at their very best. And I love seeing redemption arcs, things like that. Those are the things that really make a character complex and really draw me in and keep me reading. Some of my favorite DC characters are the Batman and the Joker, two polar opposites or two sides of a coin, but they are really so much the same in a lot of ways. It's just that their motive for living is different. And they're just some of the best written comic book characters in the history of comic books, I think, and they're just so unique. So I'm going to keep gushing about character work if I don't stop, so I'm just going to move on. But you get it. One of the big things for me is characters. I also like a really, really good plot. I don't like a plot that is just so simple, very shallow, not much to it. It's like, oh, that's nice, and the majority of the book is all fluff for the rest of it. I don't like that. I do like a complex plot, but I want a plot that's really well fleshed out. The author obviously knows where they're going. One example is a book I recently mentioned, Neuromancer, and this is a negative example because I'm halfway through the book and I still don't really quite know where the plot is going. I've seen glimpses of the plot and I kind of know the basic direction it's going, but I still don't fully get it, and I kind of wonder if the author didn't really know where the plot was going either. So we'll see. I'll probably come back to that and finish it, but I've kind of put it on a back shelf for a while because the plot really didn't keep me going. And the characters, if I'm being honest, are kind of wooden. I haven't really enjoyed the characters that much. They are interesting and different, but so far, yeah, we'll see. So plot is a really big one for me. I like a plot that is slowly rolled out through the course of the book. I don't really enjoy it where the author gives it to you all at once. Okay, here it is, and then you keep waiting throughout the whole book for it to finally pan out. I like a plot that builds over time. That's really important to me. I also like unique powers or unique magic systems, things that are different from the norm. I do like classic fantasy magic systems, fire magic and ice magic and all that good stuff. Dungeons and Dragons type classic fantasy magic systems. But I like unique magic systems too. And some of the best unique magic systems I've read are from Brandon Sanderson. He really has a way of coming up with something completely different. The magic system in the Mistborn series, for one, is, I think, one of the best that he's done, and where you digest metals, and those metals give you different powers to control the world around you or things like that based on which one you ingest or different combinations of metals. It's a really unique magic system, and I thought it was really executed pretty well. It took a while to be executed well in the first book, but the second book got even better, and I still have not read the third book. I will get to it, but I really have enjoyed Brandon Sanderson's magic systems as a whole because they're just completely different and unique. And I've heard of other unique magic systems, like the Lightbringer series from Brent Weeks, the use of color magic systems. I think that's pretty interesting. Brandon Sanderson has also done a color magic system in one of his books, so I'm interested to maybe pick up the Lightbringer series as well. But those are the kinds of things that really keep me intrigued, and I love learning about the magic system and saying, okay, I wonder what this is going to do. When a character is just getting ready to use this particular new magic that they're learning about, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I wonder where this is going to go. I'm going to very much enjoy being surprised, or at least I hope I will. So, yeah, unique powers, unique magic systems are a big deal to me. Now let's talk about tropes. And tropes are things that clearly define a specific genre, that have been used over and over again, that you can always use to designate a particular genre. So some of the classic fantasy tropes, which I do enjoy, were mostly invented by J.R.R. Tolkien in the Lord of the Rings series and things like that, like orcs and elves and fire magic and ice magic and weird trolls and things of that nature. The wizards and the dragons and dragons weren't new to Tolkien. They've been around for thousands of years, but a lot of the things that we see pop up in fantasy over and over again were largely made popular, at least, by J.R.R. Tolkien. So when you think of a trope, you usually think of Tolkien when it comes to fantasy anyway. Tropes for mysteries would be like the Agatha Christie, the standard, interview all the people that were witnesses and all the people that were involved and find out who done it. And that's a classic trope for mysteries. And some mysteries go completely askew from that, and some stick right to the formula. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a trope. Is it's a formula that defines a specific genre. And while I enjoy the classic tropes, as I said before, for fantasy and other genres as well, I like it when something is new. And usually the tropes that you see are centered around magic. So I've already talked about how I like unique magic systems. But also a trope that tends to be used a lot in fantasy is the young farm boy who learns that he has magical abilities and goes off on a quest to defeat a Dark Lord and save the world, and he has to leave his farm and his family behind. Things like that. I like when there's a character that's completely different. And, it doesn't follow those classic fantasy tropes. One example of something completely different, although still within the realm of classic fantasy settings, was Yorg in The Prince of Thorns. Even though I have not finished the book, and I really don't know if I will, but Mark Lawrence did a pretty unique change there, in that the main protagonist is actually a terrible person, and he's the heir to the throne, so he's not a classic farm boy, but he's the centerpiece of the story, learning to become one with his powers and the world that he inhabits, but yet he's the son of a king, and he is just a terrible, despicable person, and he's one of those that you hate to love and love to hate. But still, the whole story overall didn't really grip me, so I may or may not go back to it. I probably won't at this point. But that's an example of a trope that has been completely upended and done a little bit differently than the norm. Examples of the classic farm boy trope would be Wheel of Time, and even Lord of the Rings to a point, because you've got Frodo, who's spent all his life in the Shire, and he all of a sudden goes off to destroy a ring and fight a Dark Lord. So I still like that, but I like something that's unique and different, and that's okay. One of the final things, or actually the final thing on my list today, is political intrigue. I don't really get into politics much. It's not something I'm interested in, but I think really well done political meandering and structure in a book, especially in fantasy, can really, really make the story good. There's some amazing political intrigue in the Stormlight Archive from Brandon Sanderson. He has another book called Warbreaker that also has some amazingly written political intrigue. I've read other books that have some really good politics in them as well. And the reason I like that in a book is because it really kind of spins back around to the character development. When it comes to politics, you really see the nitty-gritty, dirty aspects of humanity. How they're cunning and manipulative and lash out at each other or talk behind each other's backs, and they all do it for the sake of power and making a better station for themselves in life. So when you've got a really well-written and believable political structure in a book, it adds so much more to those characters. So I've found that I really am drawn to well-written politics in a book because it really fleshes out the characters, and it makes me love the characters more or hate the characters more in a very loving way. And So yeah, political structure is a big deal to me, and I already mentioned Sanderson. I think he's very, very talented at writing good politics, and there are others that are as well that I've read. So I know I gush a lot about Sanderson on this channel, and that's because he just is that good. But I think that if I had to choose one, like my very, very top pick for what keeps me interested in a book is the characters. If all of these things were set aside, the characters would be what really drives it for me. But in all honesty, all of these things kind of play a part in putting together a holistic combination of things that make for a really good book. So, oh my goodness, guys. I can't believe I forgot to mention world building. Like, world building is the bomb. I can't believe I left that off this list. Can you guys believe I left that off this list? I mean, okay, so Sanderson has an amazing world that he's fleshed out in terms of the Cosmere. It's just brilliant. All of his books, or at least most of them, fit into one overarching universe that he's created. The same is true of a lot of Stephen King's books. I absolutely love a unique and brilliantly executed world that just keeps on growing and immersing you in it, and I can't believe I forgot it. And yes, I'm hugging a banister. Why am I hugging a banister? I don't know, but you get the point. World building. Yeah, that's another one on my list. Okay? All right, cool. Have fun, guys. Bye. So, that's my take. That's my rant. That's my gushing ended. What do you think? I would love to talk with you in the comments. Let me know what keeps you interested in a book. And what makes you initially want to pick up a book. Maybe it's watching this channel and getting recommendations from me. That's really awesome, and I hope that's the case. I hope you found some good books as a result of watching my channel, because that's one of my major goals. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought. If you enjoyed this video, and I certainly hope you did, please click a like on the video. Make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and that you click the notification bell if you want to get notifications for my future videos. Please make sure to share this with your friends so that they can see my content too. And as I've always said, and I'll say it again, make sure that you are reading more books. I'll talk to you in the next video. Have a great day, my friends. Bye.